Peace, peace. I am live. Hi, everyone. Nobody's here with me yet, but you know me. I don't like to wait. I like to get the message off my chest, and whoever comes in, comes in. You can take it back, check the replay, and all of that. I know it's been a while since I have gone live, and I miss you guys. I hope you miss me like I miss you. But I do miss y'all. And I thank y'all for always coming back to me when you do see my face pop up on your screen and on your timeline. But I have a message to get off my chest today, um, specifically about releasing expectations. I've recently been talking a lot about anxiety, especially during these particular times, in the year. A lot of us deal with lower vibrational feelings a lot. We deal with those lower vibrational feelings because these are the dark months. These are the darker months. And again, as I always say, what happens in nature happens within us. So when things are withering outside, when things are dying outside, when things are getting dark and, kind of feeling cold outside, we also start to experience that. But the problem is we don't let ourselves experience that. So in the process of us experiencing that, we're also reaching for expectations. We're reaching for what society said we were supposed to be. We're reaching for what we've told ourselves we're supposed to be. We're reaching for this image of ourselves that we built our identity on. And we're reaching for that. So we're not letting our bodies naturally process the emotions and naturally process through these dark periods. Like these dark periods are for a reason, and they're here to speak to you. But the problem is when we're experiencing, let's say, resentment, um, jealousy, depression, and things like that, when we're experiencing those things, in the meantime, we're judging ourselves and we're trying to, in our minds, get to this place that we feel like we're not at. So, in turn, that's causing anxiety because you're trying to get to where you're at in the future or where you feel like you should be at in the future, as opposed to sitting in where you're at now. And so that is why that has brought me to the topic today of releasing expectations. And I've been talking a lot about anxiety because I have a new worksheet guide out on my website, artisticalignment.com, that talks about how to align even when you have anxiety. We tend to think that when we have depression or when we have anxiety, baby says, hey. We tend to think that when we have depression or when we have anxiety, that we're behind or that we missed the lesson or that we, are not at this particular level that we thought we were at. And I'm here to say to you, though depression and anxiety can be markers or indicators of something more going on within, it is not to say that it is not necessarily, now it does depend on the case, it depends on the person. Now, it does not say that you haven't done the work or that you haven't gained the lessons or passed the lessons that you had been given. It does not always mean that. It means that on this new level, this is what affects you. On this new level, this is how you must now maneuver. We change daily, we change minute by minute. And so it is to tell you that when it comes to you feeling anxiety or depression. And so a lot of us feel like again, like we're behind and we're not supposed to be experiencing when we're on these particular levels, these higher levels of enlightenment, that we're not supposed to experience depression or anxiety or things like that. So in turn, we even further judge ourselves because we're feeling like, oh, we're not at this place that we say we're at. We're not at this place that we say we're supposed to be. And then you acquire some sense of like imposter syndrome because you feel like you're being different or you're not being the person that you're telling people that you are. And so I want to speak to that. I want to speak to that piece of anxiety and that sense of like, instead of letting anxiety be what it is, instead of letting anxiety be what it is, why we go into that judgment mode, or why we take it on as a part of ourselves or as an indication that we're less than. Okay. Um, if you don't know, welcome to my channel, Artistic Alignment. My name is Bonnie the Aligner. I am an art therapy and spiritual alignment coach, in which I assist people in helping them have compassion and self acceptance, in turn, turning it into authenticity, and how that compassion and acceptance can lead you into leading and living an authentic life. This channel specifically is about helping you in understanding the importance of self awareness above self development. Okay. I provide, again, coaching as well as alignment tools. Such as crystal and essential oil sets, and just different blends of essential oils that help you in your development and in your sense of alignment and bringing out and pushing forward that authenticity within you. So let's get started today about expectations. Now, specifically, I want to talk about releasing expectations, right? Because when you release expectations, you are building acceptance for yourself when you release expectations. Because when you have expectations, you are taking yourself outside of yourself. You're taking yourself outside of your spirit, outside of your soul and who you came here to be when you are accepting. I mean, when you are expecting. When you expecting, you don't accept because you're closed off to those things. And what acceptance is the lack of judgment based on what's right or what's wrong, based on the programming that you've been given of what's right and what's wrong. So I want to talk a little bit about my upbringing. And I was trying to, nobody's here with me right now. I should have asked. Let me see something. Always, oh, okay. There we go. Always got to make sure this mic working. Okay. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about my upbringing. Now, in my upbringing, I wasn't really necessarily or specifically taught to focus on caring for myself. I wasn't focused on care. I wasn't taught to focus on self care and self compassion and self love. What I was taught and what me and my family was taught, my sisters and my brothers, what we were taught was how to look and be acceptable for society. Now, of course, in turn, by way of that, I, I accepted, or I looked out for myself, or I cared for myself by way of that focus. I've done some self-care because, of course, if I care about being acceptable to society, I'm going to care for myself because I care about how society perceives me. So in turn, of course, I did care for myself, but I was always taught the focus to be I was always taught the focus to be to be acceptable for society, to learn this, to be acceptable or to be, accepted or liked in society, to learn this, to be liked for society, to go to college, to be accepted in society for an income, you know, to not come off as a mean girl, to be accepted in society, you know, to acquire these certain ideologies or socialism or gender roles because it's accepted in society. And I just specifically always remember my mom saying like well, you got to do it like this, or you got to do it like that, or they said, or like a they said situation. I'm like, who is they, or even my very name was, when my mom tells me the story of my name and my sister's name and all of my brother's name, it was based on what she felt like we needed in order to be accepted in society. That's why we all have, like, I hate to say it, what is considered as like a Caucasian or acceptable name. Barbara, Bonnie, Sean. You know what I mean? Like that that or Corey, or I don't know, maybe those are black names too, but my mom's point was she wanted to be sure that it looked acceptable on an application. It looked acceptable before people can see and know who I am and feel me, right? So that's literally how she kind of raised us. And she did a great job as a mom. She did a great job as a parent in raising us. But I gotta say that was very detrimental to my natural development and me coming into my authenticity and accepting myself. Because boy, oh boy, I ended up battling internally a lot with accepting myself up against those expectations in society. And it's so funny because I remember becoming so proud as I was learning to be accepted in society. I remember becoming so proud to say, I am doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. I got good grades. I'm going to college. I'm being the person most people like. So I became so proud of these things. And so like, even when it came to like me comparing myself and looking at other people, I would always say, well, I'll, compare myself and say, well, I'm doing the right thing, or they're, oh man, they're doing a lot of little shady stuff. That's not right, or that's not acceptable in society, or he's not doing good in school, or he's dropping out of school. Oh wow, that is not good in society. So it caused me to kind of detach myself from people and look at them in a expectant kind of way, and based off of what those expectations that I was bred and raised on. And so I became so proud of that, of being this acceptable person, that when I started like flowing naturally and doing things from my heart, sometimes it took me out of those expectations. But I always had this inclination to follow my heart. It's just that, you know, it's just that most of the time it was still wrapped in expectations. Although I would follow my heart, I would find a way to still wrap it in the expectations. You know what I mean? Um, and so it was like, I remember, like, for example, I remember wanting, when I decided, I remember wanting to go to college for theater, for acting. But my parents said that that's not necessarily, a career that you would go, a career that you would make money off of, or that you would be acceptable for. So, what I did to still follow my heart, but wrap it in expectations, is I minored in theater, or I took it, well, I guess it was considered like a double major. And then I majored in public relations, something more tangible, something more feasible, something more practical in a sense, because technically they're kind of on the same way, to be honest. But that is an example that I give when it comes to following my heart, but still kind of wrapping it in expectations. And so as I continue to matriculate on my journey within life, and I followed my heart more and more, to the point where now my heart was taking me heavily, often outside of those expectations. And although I still followed my heart, I struggled within that, because I was like, man, like I was taken away from that feeling and from that synchronicity of following my heart, because I would feel that feeling and that synchronicity to follow my heart, but then I would judge myself within for doing so. I would judge myself and like I'm not being acceptable in society for following my heart. So it was kind of like a back and forth thing. It was kind of like a back and forth thing of me doing the right thing, me flowing with spirit, and then me regretting it, or me, you know what I mean, feeling like I made the wrong decision. And that creates a huge internal turmoil within. That creates a huge sense of non acceptance within when you do that. So it's very important to release the expectations. It's very important to release the expectations of being right or accepted in society in all regards. In all regards. It is up to us to consider the not so good traits, because to be honest, there is no right, there is no wrong. And that's when you get on this journey of um finding your own flow through spirit, finding your own flow through the spirit within, and through following your heart and following your intuition. When you get into this place, you understand that it's no right or wrong. All of those things that were written and that were set in place out there, it's still based on someone else's perspective, someone else's experience. And we each have a very different perspective and experience from each other. It may seem similar, and we may have some similarities, but we all have our own specific set uh of what it means to be right and wrong for us. There is no right and wrong for us. There is only what serves us and what doesn't serve us. And even if you engage in what doesn't serve you, it doesn't define you. It doesn't, you are far more than than the emotions that you're feeling or the act that you are doing. You're far more than that. And so the key is seeing yourself as far more than that, by not judging or putting a label on yourself when you are feeling certain things or when you're feeling certain emotions. Okay. So when you hold on to expectations for your on your of yourself and on others, when you hold on to expectations, what you do is you box yourself in, and you box yourself in now, and you block your view of anything that is outside of that box. You block your view of those. So if you're holding yourself to societal expectations, then you're not going to see through or past societal expectations. And your spirit is always going to, okay, hold on. Hold on, guys. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? I don't know what's going on with these comments. I'll tell you that. Some foul stuff in these comments. Hold on, guys. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So, one second, y'all. I want to make sure. I don't know what this means, but let me wait till somebody comes back in here right now. Because I'm going to keep going and hope and have faith that things are going smoothly with my vocals here. Okay. All right. So again, you can't see when you're boxing yourself in with these expectations, you cannot see past the expectations. And your spirit is here to guide you through life. Your spirit is here to take you into the places that your mind cannot take you to. So if you're so stuck in your mind with these expectations that you were programmed on, you're not going to be able to let spirit guide you into the places that are outside of those expectations, which is taken away from your own authentic flow. And when you take away from your own authentic flow, you not being authentic is going to create a sense of non-acceptance within yourself. Hey, can you tell me if you can hear me right now, guys? Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know because I don't know what's going on with these microphones. Tell me yes, you can hear me. Tell me yes. Let me know. Let me know. Tell me yes. No. Yes. No. Can you hear me? No. Okay. You didn't tell me. All right. All right. It's all good. But I want to. Okay. Good. Yes. Yay. Thank you, Phoenix. I appreciate you. I'm still kind of figuring out live, y'all, but I'm here. I'm present, okay? Thank y'all for being here. So you gotta be able to open up and be used by spirit in order to really be able to go into your authentic flow. Um, and the first step to that, honestly, is releasing expectations. Because the more and more you hold on to expectations, the more and more you're gonna beat up on yourself for not being those expectations. The more and more you hold on to expectations outside of your natural flow, the more of a probability to create internal turmoil. Okay. So you just have to open yourself up to the possibility of things. Like, for example, when we have expectations, right? We don't see certain things. When we have expectations of ourselves and a certain image of ourselves to be, we do not see those traits of ourselves that are outside of those expectations, right? Especially if it's something that is in the shadows and that is something that we really don't want to see. We'll shove it down underneath that image and shove it down and push it down underneath that expectation. Okay. And you got to be able to open yourself up to see traits that are outside of societal acceptance, because it's opening yourself up to see all of who you possibly are. All of who you are is going to include some traits that are not acceptable in society. And you got to be okay with that, because society is just that, society. Society has nothing on your soul and your spirit and the intricacies and the complexities of who you are. Society has nothing on that. So why try to box yourself in, or why try to make yourself robotic as if your spirit or your soul is a robot? So when you have certain feelings, emotions, or you take note of certain traits, instead of shoving it down and pushing it down because it's not acceptable in society, or being fearful of accepting it, or of exemplifying it, instead of being fearful of that, or instead of being scared to even touch that, when you release expectations, you open yourself up to say, okay, well, that's an aspect of myself. I'm not a good listener. I'm not. Sometimes I'm not saying me personally. That this is an example, because I'm a great listener, unless I am in a position where someone doesn't listen to me, or someone isn't open to my perspective, then I tune them out. I don't do no listening then. But anyway, that was an example for me to say, you know, what is a trait of mine? What is a trait of yours that is outside societal expectations or acceptance of society? You have to be able to break away from the boxes, break away from the change and the chains, in order to have a broader perspective, to be able to have awareness of all of you. You're not going to have or gain awareness of all of yourself if you're still seeing things within this societal boxed in sense of expectations. Again, you have to open yourself up to traits that may be unacceptable for society, and in turn is going to be unacceptable to yourself, because you're still expecting certain things of yourself. You're still expecting you're still expecting you to be something that you were months ago. Why would you expect that of yourself when you're a different person now? You got to go with your own flow, and understand that you have new ways to flow. You have a new understanding about yourself. Exactly. And so you have to break outside of that safe space of expectations. Some emperor said ego. That is exactly your ego. Your ego, what your ego does is it puts you in a safe space, or it speaks to you so that you're able to put yourself in a safe space. And so the ego is very needed and functional when you really need to be put in a safe space, or you need to remove yourself to go to the safe space. But a lot of the times, because we're taught in fight or flight mode, a lot of the times our ego is speaking up out of turn. A lot of the times our ego isn't needed, because we are in a safe space. It's just our subconscious mind telling us we're not in a safe space, because we're expecting. We're boxed into these expectations. So your ego is saying, beep, 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 I'm going out of these expectations. You're not safe. Well, take yourself out of those expectations, and your ego will work more properly. Your ego will be more effective if you take yourself out of these societal acceptance modes, the societal acceptance expectations. Okay. Um, So, again, you have to open yourself up to these potentially unacceptable traits about yourself. And it's not about opening yourself up to criticize yourself or to come down on yourself about it. Okay? Because that's what a lot of us do. And that's what I was talking about um a lot of people who are experiencing anxiety, and why they're experiencing anxiety, because they're not letting their emotions process within them, and instead they're judging themselves through the emotional process, when the emotional process is just supposed to be just that, the emotional process. I don't give a damn what emotion that you had on that scale. It's still a process to carry through. You're not above a specific emotion just because you're at this level of enlightenment. You're not above those emotions. So you gotta, you, as a emotional being, as an emotional human being, you gotta let yourself process those emotions and not judge yourself through them. But the only way the only reason that you're judging yourself through this emotional process is because of the expectations, because you're expecting to be what society said you're supposed to be, because you program your subconscious mind to think I'm supposed to be in this box and I'm not supposed to go outside of that. You're going to have emotional turmoil all the time. You're going to have inner turmoil all the time if you don't break outside of these expectations. So again, you're not you're not learning these unacceptable traits about yourself to criticize yourself and to say, oh, I need to change here, I need to change here, I need to get there, I need to get there, I need to do better at that. That's not what this about. And that's why my channel, oh yeah, baby getting frustrated with me. She said, this is a long video, mommy, this is longer, mom. But yeah, it, so you're not, baby, you threw me off of my point. Hold on. so, so what was I saying? Okay. So you're not accepting or taking note of being aware of these unacceptable traits within yourself. Y'all give me 1 second, okay? Sorry about that. Y'all know baby runs this channel over here. Y'all know baby runs the channel over here, so I gotta get her straight. So yeah, so becoming aware of those unacceptable traits within yourself, or those traits that you feel like you just don't want to touch because you feel like they might be wrong in society, or you feel like you might be wrong, but the only reason you feel like you might be wrong is because society told you that. But it's not about criticizing yourself. It's not about saying, oh, I need to change this, oh, I need to change that, oh, I need to get here, I need to get there. Oh, what I was saying was, and that's why on this channel we're about self-awareness over self-development, because the reality is we're here on this earth to develop naturally. Our experiences specifically are created to specifically make us develop, to specifically push us into situations and emotions and lessons that will develop us. We're going to naturally develop. So this self-development kick is beautiful, that you want to be, it's beautiful that you want to learn, it's beautiful, but you're putting expectations on it. You're putting expectations on it when it comes to this self-development shit. And that is going to create more inner turmoil for you. That's why you've noticed it. Have you ever noticed, like, it's really usually the most ambitious people that deal with the most inner turmoil? They don't admit it that much. It doesn't come down to them having a nervous breakdown or when it comes to suicide, or it doesn't come, it only comes down to that most of the time when we notice that those ambitious people, or those people that's always trying to, get something in the future, have that emotional turmoil. And trust me, I know, like, I've been ambitious since I was young, and I had to understand, like, that ambition, the way that I'm going about it is killing my peace. And so Spirit had to put me in a position of lessons, of constantly showing me that every time you move forward and trying to be ambitious in this way, we're gonna shake you up and stagnate you every time, so you can gain the spiritual lesson in that. So yeah, it's really big when it comes to you constantly trying to get somewhere other than where you're at right now. And that's what the self-development thing does. The key is being self-aware. Being aware of these traits within yourself, being aware of these not so acceptable traits within yourself, and not to come on down on yourself about them, but to take your power back. To take your power back, to learn in the areas that you can flourish at with these traits. Okay, learn and learn the tools that will aid you into flourishing better with these traits, and finding how to utilize those traits and not shame them or consider yourself unworthy because you have them. Okay? Because the only reason you're considering yourself unworthy for having these traits is because you were told or programmed that they were wrong or right. Scratch that. There is no wrong or right. There is only serving and not serving you. Okay. And you have to figure that out based off of you learning into yourself. Okay. And this is extremely important when it comes to the emotional process, like releasing these expectations. Again, it's very important when it comes to letting your emotions process. We don't give ourselves space to have emotions because of expectations, because the expectations we've put on ourselves to uphold a certain personality, or to uphold a certain image, or to uphold what is right or what is wrong. Our emotions, though, our emotions are attached to our heart, and our hearts are attached to our spirit. And our spirits are far too complex to try to expect robotic reacting. You know, it just, our spirit is too complex for that. You can't box our spirit into, you can't box our soul into expectations. You just can't. Okay. And so the key to the emotional processing is letting yourself have emotions and certain traits, so that they may cycle through how they need to, letting emotions cycle through and not become you, or not become, you know, you based off of you telling yourself a story. Most of the times, it's not the emotions that affect us. It's how we're judging ourselves. It's the story that we're telling ourselves in the process of emotions. When you get, let's say, when you get jealous, which is a very normal emotion. Don't beat up on yourself for feeling jealous, but it's what you do with that jealousy. When you're feeling jealousy, what's the jealousy, right? What's the story you tell yourself? You're like, no, you know what? I think he was over there with her last night. He had to be. He told me he was with his friends, but I think he had to be over there with her, because I don't trust that. Like, this is stuff you're telling yourself in the moment that you have an emotion. But you just gotta let the emotions process. Or you're telling yourself, man, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Why would I think he likes me like that? Why would I think she would have my back in this way? Why would I think that? And that is the worst time to have a logical thought process. Let the emotions have their own process. And then you have your emotional thought process. I mean, you have your thought process, your logical thought process afterwards. Let your emotions, your emotional process, and your logical process be two separate things. And that's what real emotional intelligence is all about. Okay, emotional intelligence is not controlling your emotions or stuffing them down when you feel them coming up. It's not that. That's what emotional intelligence is. Not even not reacting, because sometimes you have to react in order for the emotion to speak to you, especially if you're a person that suppresses emotions a lot. You have to let that emotion fully manifest in order to see it, because you ain't gonna see it because you always stuffing it down. So in order to fully see it, you sometimes gotta react. But that's okay. Let that reaction just sit there. That's why if you practice overall integrity, you're not gonna do like I practice overall integrity. So I know at the end of the day, even when I'm emotional, I'm not gonna do anything that hurts. Even if I'm emotional and I might react in my emotion, my overall integrity, I'm not gonna immediately do anything that is gonna hurt anybody. You know what I'm saying? But if I do, it's a part of my lessons and it's a part of my journey, you know what I'm saying, to learn within myself. And I got to release judgment outside of what I'm expecting myself to be in order to fully see, in order to fully perceive myself. Okay. So y'all gotta let the emotions process. Let the emotion though process be the emotional process. And then you let your logical process be the logical process. But again, when you release the expectations, you're opening up your vision. You're opening up your perspective. And when you open up your vision, that is making room to be accepted within, to find acceptance. Because you're never going to get acceptance outside of you, or it's going to be a false sense of acceptance outside of you if you don't have the acceptance within. That's why it's a lot of people, including myself, when they deal with like self acceptance things throughout life, they deal with so much rejection, 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 rejection. It's because spirit is trying to show you that you don't need that acceptance outside of you. Reach for it within yourself. So you're constantly going to experience rejection things or false senses of acceptance if you haven't found acceptance within. Okay. And that's very acceptance is number one when it comes to being authentic. You gotta accept aspects of yourself, even if the aspects are not so fucking pretty. You just got to. Okay. You got to recognize that you're not perfect and you're not a perfect image that you hide yourself in. But you also got to recognize within that, you not being that perfect image, there's no right or wrong in that. There's no right or wrong in not being the perfect image. Okay. So that key to releasing expectations in order to build self acceptance is having accountability where you fall short and not placing judgment on yourself because it's outside of the norm. Okay. And I'm here for everybody. I know it's these dark timing, these dark months, where we experience a lot of those lower vibrational emotions and a lot of those lower vibrational traits come out. But I'm here to say, let them speak to you. Like, really let them talk to you, because it'll tell you what it needs. It'll tell you where it's rooted at. It'll tell you, but you can't let it talk to you if you're pushing it away. If you're pushing it away emotionally and mentally because it doesn't meet expectations. Okay. Um, if you're having trouble with doing that, the first thing I would suggest you is to go on artisticalignment.com to get the free download. It is free. Yes, it's free. It's to get the free download worksheet of how to align with anxiety. And if you don't think you have anxiety, if you're a person that is very ambitious, if you're a person that is constantly trying to push down your emotional turmoil, your emotional things, if you're experiencing those things, or if you're finding it hard to process your emotions, this will assist you in this as well, because technically you do have anxiety, because you're having inner turmoil when you can't control, and that's anxiety. So I definitely encourage you to download the worksheet, How to Align with Anxiety. Go to artisticalignment.com. And if you need further help on this, because especially these times, shadow work is important, but it's not the easiest because you're prone to feeling down on yourself, or you're prone to stuffing it down to not feel down. So if you need some assistance through this process of giving yourself compassion, giving yourself acceptance, and learning really how to be authentic within your own authentic soul flow, I encourage you to book an alignment coaching with me today. Okay. And one more thing. I have a Patreon, guys. I have a Patreon, and I just have one tier on there. But the Patreon is specifically to provide you with prompts, with journal prompts, with writing exercises, and with worksheets that will assist you in doing this work that I talk about here on the YouTube channel. Okay. So go to my Patreon, Artistic Alignment, guys, and I hope that you become a member. It's definitely very beneficial. Again, you will receive all the, you pretty much are getting that push and that guidance of how exactly to do this shadow work, how exactly to do this work on accepting. And I'm going to provide you with those worksheets, with those prompts, and with those activities to help you do so. So definitely join my Patreon, guys. And thank you for being here. As always, if you are new, I would love for you to like, share, and subscribe. If you're not new, thank you so much. And I want you to hit that like button as well, okay? Again, I am Bonnie Anahata, the Aligner, and we are here on Artistic Alignment channel, where we show the importance of how to be self-aware over being self-developing, okay? All right, peace. I'm out of here.